EFF followed up its by-election win a fortnight ago in Phokwane with another victory over the ANC in Lomanyaneng in Mafikeng, that's in the northwest. The DA had an important hold in Tshwane in a race in which ActionSA made its debut election or by-election debut, and the Freedom Front Plus made its first outing since its impressive 2021 showing. Let's help you make sense of all of this. We're joined by Elections Analyst Wayne Sussman. Thank you very much, Wayne, for availing yourself this morning. I think let's start in the northwest, but maybe also with a bit of context as to how these by-elections came about.
Sure. So the particular by-election in the northwest was because the previous ward councillor passed away. But just to take a step back, got to remember between 2016 and 2021, the EFF tried hundreds, if not over 1,000 times to beat the ANC in by-elections, and they got it right just twice. Now, remember, the local government elections was in 2021. In the space of 2 weeks, in the space of a fortnight, the EFF have replicated what they did between 2016 and 2021 by winning 2 consecutive wards off the ANC. So the result in Mafikeng, in the Mafikeng municipality, was very, very significant, because you saw the EFF turn what was a competitive seat which leaned towards the ANC into a seat where the EFF got its voters out. Actually, there's an increased turnout between the local government elections and now, and actually beat the ANC by a margin greater than 2-1. This was a significant result.
I mean, it's a thrashing when you take a look at the margins. 69% for the EFF as compared to the ANC's 31%. What were some of the underlying factors in terms of how people voted?
So the ANC's nomination candidate process for the ward council position didn't go well. The community wasn't happy with the council with the candidate who was put forward, and it's clear that they stayed away. But that's one part of the story. The other part of the story is what the EFF did. They ran a very disciplined campaign. They had a lot of their top leaders there, and they were going for this. They sensed an opportunity, and they followed this up. And I just want to say that we know historically that the ANC, one of its biggest challenges has been its own internal wranglings. It's one thing to take on the ANC when they are divided, but the ANC usually shows up and gets over the line and has a significant win. But here, they were not able to get to election day, get their volunteers out, get their voters out, and this resulted in a significant win for the EFF.
I guess those 1 million members by December might actually be a reality for the party. Let's take a look at Gauteng. Much is being said, I guess many people not surprised that the DA coming out tops, but much is being said about the showing of ActionSA being made to be heroes, I guess, essentially, for lack of a better phrasing. What do we need to understand about the dynamics there?
So let's just remind the viewers where this ward is. It's in the northern parts of Pretoria, going towards the northwest border. Most of this area is around the middle-class suburb of Montana and Doornpoort, traditional DA area. The DA loses ground to both ActionSA, but particularly the Freedom Front in the 2021 local government election. What was key here, and this is why it was the perfect by-election for ActionSA to make their debut, was because they were able to lure across a person called Hannes Kutsia, who had won that ward for the DA not once, not twice, but 3 times. So this is someone who is very, very well known in the community. So what is essentially a good result? Because you see the DA's vote share fall from 53% to 45%. You see ActionSA more than triple their vote from 7% to 22%. I would say this is a good result for the DA and a good result for the ActionSA. Not such a good result for the Freedom Front, because they were the 3rd horse in this race, and they would have wanted to finish 2nd, not 3rd. So if I'm the DA in Tshwane, I'm happy about this result. If I'm ActionSA, this is my by-election debut. Yes, I wanted to win this ward. I had the perfect candidate, but a strong 2nd place is key, particularly when you remember, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, what's coming up in early June. There's a Soweto by-election, and ActionSA are going to say, we can appeal to voters in Montana, in a majority white middle-class area, and we can appeal to voters in Lufureng, Soweto. We are the future party, but at the same time the DA is saying, look, the majority of voters here in Montana still backed us.
That is such an interesting dynamic, right? So when it comes to Freedom Front Plus, what's behind this poor showing? You would think that especially for that area, they would do well.
Yeah, it's a relatively poor showing. They only lost about 1 or 2%, but they finished third. That's the difference here. They wanted to be the alternative to the DA, because we know in many conservative areas of South Africa in the lead up to the local government elections, the Freedom Front were beating the DA in traditional DA areas. Here they've fallen third. It could be a variety of factors. Did they put enough resources in? Were they as motivated? But you said at the start of the show, this was important for ActionSA. It was their first ever by-election, but also it was the Freedom Front's first by-election since the local government elections. They would have wanted to do slightly better than third place.
I do wonder why the DA would have let go of their kingmaker in the name of Hannes Coetzee. What happened there?
I always say in life, whether it's politics or anything else we can speak about, it takes two to tango. So Coetzee would say that the DA wasn't, and we can believe in this, wasn't doing enough to sort out water issues or substation issues, that they weren't being attentive to enough because they had taken over Tshwane since 2016 and they had lost contact with his community. The DA could say that he had just simply served his time and is no longer adding any value. I don't know what the real reason is, but the reasons he cited were issues in this by-election. So I'll give you just one very quick example. At the Rooiwal substation, where there were major issues with power for the community there, that's where ActionSA did the best. They got over 55% of the vote in that particular voting district. So it showed you that ActionSA tried to make this about local issues, saying the DA are not doing enough to help you with power and power outages and load shedding. In that particular small part of the ward, the DA got punished and Hannes Coetzee won there. So it's a variety of factors.
Let's take a look at the by-election in the Eastern Cape, KwaZakele. The ANC doing pretty well there.
Yeah, and this is always a story. So political parties can get excited about one by-election result and not look at the rest. The ANC in the Eastern Cape is pretty rock solid. We know that they lost the Byelections municipality after the last election, but they're back in control with their coalition partners of Nelson Mandela Bay. Yes, they lost some ground here, but the ANC are still looking good in Nelson Mandela Bay. Some of the other parties did show growth, but right now they'd be happy with that performance.
What does all of this mean, especially the by-elections? What should they tell us, if you were to look into your crystal ball, about the general election in 2024?
Sure. So we can go on Twitter to get 1 million opinions, and we can go have coffee with a friend and get their opinions. I think by-elections, yes, it's a snapshot. Yes, sometimes turnouts are low, but we get to understand what particular pockets of this country are saying at a time. So there was another by-election in Tabankulu in the rural Eastern Cape, in the Alfred Nzo area. There you see the ANC support hardly even decline. It shows to you that the ANC is totally rock solid in the rural parts of the Eastern Cape. It shows us that in places like Gauteng, the ANC's got a lot of work to do. It shows us in relatively white middle-class areas, there's now a three-way contest between the DA, ActionSA and the Freedom Front. It shows us that in Nelson Mandela Bay, despite the service delivery challenges, voters are still sticking by the ANC, and it shows us that in the Northern Cape and the Northwest, in the northern parts of our country, let's call it like that, the EFF are posing a bigger and bigger threat to the ANC. These are the early signs as we march towards the 2024 elections. Just
very quickly for us, when we reflect on the events happening now with the elective conference in the Eastern Cape, could we see a change in that trajectory, even though we've seen disruptions to previous conferences, or do you perceive that voters will pretty much follow the same line and vote again for the ANC? What do you also make of everything that is going on there?
Well, it's very, very important for the ANC as a political party to have a smooth conference. I mean, these delays would worry me if I was the ANC. Having said, and I think that's one of the reasons why the stakes are so high. If one had to consider the 2021 elections, the Eastern Cape and Limpopo are the two provinces the ANC could be very proud of. Yet their volunteers, activists and supporters are seeing a conference right now in East London which is plagued by court challenges, plagued by delays. That's not going to motivate your volunteers. But having said that, the ANC's support is still absolutely rock solid in the Eastern Cape.
Looking forward to speaking to you again where elections, at least in this country, are concerned. Wayne Sussman is an election analyst. Thank you very much for availing yourself this morning.